Greetings, I'm No Zoop for you, and this is your week in warships for the week of February 27th. Before I get started though, this week's episode is going to be paired with A Last Snow by Funky Buddha. This is a coconut beer, it's a porter, and it tastes very, very good. Funky Buddha is actually located down in Florida, so if you get a chance to head that far south, definitely worth a look. So let's get started. On February 27th of 1942, the USS Langley was heavily damaged by land-based Japanese bombers. Now, the Langley at the time was participating in the defense of Java, and it was carrying 32 P-40 warplanes. Due to the damage she had sustained, Langley was scuttled by way of shelling and torpedoes fired by USS Whipple, a Clemson-class destroyer. At the time of her sinking, the Langley looked far different from the aircraft carrier you're accustomed to in the game. She had been converted to a seaplane tender in 1937 and carried the designation AV-3. She looked almost like a hybrid ship, being a cross between a cargo ship and an aircraft carrier. Her flat top was reduced by almost half in her current state. Now, in case you did not know, the USS Langley was the first aircraft carrier for the United States Navy. Now, I mentioned that the USS Langley was involved in the defense of Java. February 27th was actually the start of the Battle of Java. In this battle, 14 Allied ships raced to the East Dutch Indie colony of Java to help defend it against a force of 28 Japanese naval ships. During the next 3 days of battle, the Allied forces would be decimated, losing 11 ships. 3,370 were killed in action and nearly 1,500 sailors would be taken prisoner. Dutch Rear Admiral Karel Doorman was killed in action when the HMAS De Ruyter was sunk on February 28th. Following old naval tradition, Doorman opted to go down with the ship. Now, another smaller battle actually happened during the Battle of Java. This would be known as the Battle of Sunda Strait, and included the USS Houston and the HMAS Perth. Sailors of the USS Houston and HMAS Perth found themselves surrounded by enemy warships just after midnight on February 28th. The enemy forces included the destroyer Fubuki and heavy cruisers Mogami and Mikuma. At midnight, low on ammunition, Perth attempted to punch through enemy lines. She was struck by 4 torpedoes in quick succession. At 25 after midnight on March 1st, Perth sank with a loss of 358 sailors. Included in that number was the Perth's captain, Hector Waller, and the ship's mascot, a black cat named Red Lead. The USS Houston, a Portland-class cruiser, would continue to fight on alone. It scored several hits against the cruisers and destroyers it was up against. However, its luck would eventually run out. Shortly past midnight, Houston was struck by a torpedo. Then, at 12:30, Captain Albert Rooks was killed by a bursting shell. The ship came to a stop and Japanese destroyers moved in, ruthlessly raking the stranded ship with machine gun fire. Not long after, the Houston rolled over and sank. Only 368 of the ship's 1,061-man crew survived. The USS Houston's story does not end here though, and there are several acts of bravery, one in particular while the sailors were floating in the water just after the ship was sunk. After the sinking, the ship's chaplain, Commander George Rentz, would forfeit his life to save the life of a fellow shipmate. Rentz, along with several men, were stranded on the pontoon of a downed aircraft. Seeing that it was overcrowded and that the pontoon was beginning to sink, he urged the sailors to take his life vest and allow him to perish. He declared, "You men are young. I've lived the major part of my life and I'm willing to let go." The men rebuffed him, bringing him back to the floating debris several times. Finally, Rentz claimed his heart was failing and handed his life jacket to Seaman First Class Walter Beeson. Rentz then kicked away from the group and disappeared. Captain Albert Brooks was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions during the Battle of Sunda Strait. Chaplain Rentz was actually awarded the Navy Cross. That is the second highest award for valor. All you battleship lovers out there, February 28th is a very, very important day. It's this day in 1893 that the USS Indiana BB-1 is launched. This is the first true battleship in the United States Navy. USS Missouri would make history on March 1st of 1991 during Operation Desert Storm. It bombarded Failaka Island in Iraq. Now, the bombardment was so devastating and so just shock and awe that the Iraqi forces surrendered by waving white flags at the flying drone that the USS Missouri had launched. Very cool, and it also is a testament to the longevity of this Iowa-class battleship. Lastly, on March 5th of 1943, the USS Bogue, another aircraft carrier that you're probably pretty familiar with from World of Warships, becomes part of the very first submarine hunter-killer group. This marks the first anti-submarine operation by an escort carrier in the Atlantic. It's also the beginning of the American anti-submarine hunter-killer group, which would be refined not only during World War II, but would continue to this very day. So there you have it. This wraps up this week in naval history for February 27th. Stay tuned for more. Hope you enjoyed. Zoop out.